So if that's the case, if Siakam looks like a good fit, if he does have more scoring that the Warriors could really use, defensively, obviously he's not the difference maker that Draymond is, but he's good defensively. What if the Warriors said, "Hey, we're gonna move on from Draymond, so we don't have to fear the next time he tries to kick an opponent in the nuts or something, and we're gonna go for Siakam." So again, in the same idea with my earlier 3-teamer, the Raptors don't need Draymond. They're not necessarily rebuilding, but like they don't need Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett and Draymond. It's just they need more shooting than that. So a team that could use Draymond, I think, is the Houston Rockets. I think they're looking for a front court difference maker defensively. They want to make a move. They signed Jeff Green and Jock Landale to deals that they could move. They traded for Victor Oladipo to give them a chip to match salary. So I think they're looking to make a move. I think they'd like to add a front court piece. So here's the deal I put together. Draymond, Looney, and Gary Payton go to the Rockets. Because that's always the tricky part about trading for Siakam is he makes like $38 million. So you've got to get there in salary somehow. So Draymond, Looney, Gary Payton to the Rockets. Then Toronto also tossed them Garrett Temple and Christian Coloco just to make the salary match. But the Raptors get that Jeff Green, Victor Oladipo, Jock Landale collection of salaries that are all expiring. And then they get Jalen Green, former number 2 pick, wü still has a lot of potential, but I think has moved down the pecking order enough in Houston where they've got Fred VanVleet, Sengun's coming into his own, Jabari Smith, you've got Dylan Brooks love to shoot. So I think Jalen Green has fallen out of favor, not a ton, but enough where he's not going to be super coveted, and that could kind of get things moving for Toronto. And then I think the Warriors need to put in a pick, and so they send a 26 first, maybe protected if this is their big move, lotto protected to Toronto. And then the Warriors get Pascal Siakam and Reggie Bullock. So major pieces, you're sending out Draymond, Looney, Payton, and a pick, and getting back Siakam. What do you think about that for the Warriors?
You know what? I love it. I actually love it. And this is something I've never actually thought about in the last few days, because obviously Siakam has been, especially after the Anunoby piece falls, like Siakam's now the big name across social media and whatever else, and a lot of Warrior fans talking about discussing a potential Siakam trade. And I've never got it because I just thought, okay, it's probably going to be Wiggins. And in that scenario, like, who's your starting small forward? And that, do you have Kuminga out there, but then the floor spacing with Kuminga, Siakam, and Draymond just doesn't make any sense. And so I just never landed on, who would be the starting small forward in a Siakam trade. And not once did I ever think, well, why don't you just send Draymond out instead of Wiggins? This is literally you saying it's the first time I've even considered that. And it actually makes a whole lot of sense because, the fit between Siakam and Draymond, like, they have to play at the 4 and the 5. And so you don't have a traditional center out there for starters. And as I said, the shooting issues that come with that makes sense. And I think it makes sense all around. Like, I think if you're Toronto and you're saying we've got a guy here who is going to be a free agent at the end of the season who might leave anyway, and I can get a former number 2 overall pick from a couple of years ago in Jalen Green. And then if you're the Rockets, you've got Draymond under contract for another 3 seasons after this. The one issue I would have is, Draymond and Dylan Brooks on the same team. Is that going to work? Are we sure about that? So that'd be comical.
I think Houston's drinking the Ime Udoka Kool-Aid, where they're like, man, Brooks totally fine. Look at him; he's a perfect angel now. Udoka could do anything; he can get everyone in line. So I think they're too confident; they talk themselves into it.
And the other thing from a Houston perspective, I guess I'm now questioning is, what's your front court looking like? So is Draymond starting with Sengun, and then what's happened to Jabari Smith Jr. in that scenario?
Yeah, so that's fair. I just think defensively, it's probably you don't have enough rim protection if you've got Sengun and Jabari Smith.
Yeah.
Potentially. They might be fine going to war with that. But I think the idea is, you bring Smith off as like the super sub. You've got this three pieces where any of them could really play center or power forwards. You can just kind of rotate them around with each other. And they all, 96 minutes of those two positions, you divide, give them, 30, 32 each to those three players. So something like that. But at some point they've got so many good players now that they've got to force guys to the bench somewhere. And so,
yeah.
Then you have Looney as your reserve center.
Yeah. I actually I love, and again, I can't believe that I didn't consider moving Draymond in a Siakam trade. I was like, it's either going to be Wiggins or CP3, and the issues with that is who's your starting small forward or who's your secondary ball handler / playmaker. And so I always landed on, I'm just not sure I'd do it because of those issues. And not once did I think about Draymond. So that's super interesting.